and happy Monday, November 23rd, the Monday before Thanksgiving if you're in the US, and just another Monday if you weren't in the US. So today's reading quote comes from Ulysses, actually, and still 2013 because, that was a big reading year for me. And the quote says, "Everything speaks in its own way." And I really enjoyed this quote because it just reminds you that everything has its own language, whether you can understand it or not. Everything has its own language, and everything and everyone speaks and has something to say. So now on with our current reads, because I have a lot to update you all on. I did a lot of reading yesterday, and let's just jump right into it. So just as a reminder, these are some of the books that we'll be talking about today. I don't even know, could you see that? It's a weird angle. I guess so. So first, let's talk about Guards by Terry Pratchett. This book is absolutely hilarious. It has that kind of Monty Python dry British sense of humor that I absolutely love. I highly suggest picking up this book if you need a good laugh. My vlogs don't really do it enough justice. So now where I'm at in the book is the brethren have summoned the dragon a second time. The watch found the remains, and now they're off mingling with others and eavesdropping on people to see if they talk about the dragon or not, see if people have seen it. And Carrot is left alone at headquarters to just do nothing because he's been causing trouble trying to uphold the law. And then the last place I left it last night was that the orangutan librarian came in because someone has committed a crime in the library worse than murder, supposedly. The orangutan librarian, because he's an orangutan, can't speak English or human, so his speaking is just in like grunts that Carrot's trying to interpret, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, on to the big update. I finished this book last night, The Great Alone by Kristin, and oh my god, it was amazing. But first, let me give you all of my walkthrough updates, and I'll have a review of this later today. So check out my spoiler-free review later. But as you know, all of my vlogs are spoiler vlogs because this is just my updates as I'm reading it. So I should have said that at the beginning, but if you see my videos before, you know that these are all spoilers. So The Great Alone. So here is what has happened since I last checked in. Dad is building a wall in front of their house. Lenny got into college. And then Lenny and Mom ran away. Matthew helped them. Lenny fell down into a crevice, and Matthew tried to save her and became severely injured. Like, they weren't sure if he was going to make it or not. He is now brain damaged and almost paralyzed. Lenny is pregnant with Matthew's baby. Dad turns his anger onto Lenny and starts beating Lenny after he finds out that she's pregnant. Mom then shoots Dad, and Lenny and Mom throw the body in the lake with traps around his ankles to weigh it down. And then they run away back to Seattle. Matthew is now in a care facility with still no improvement. Lenny, back in Seattle with Mom's parents, realizes that she can't keep calling the home because she may get caught, because they can now, in this time in the 70s, can track calls. People back in Alaska, except for Large Marge, who helped them get away, people back in Alaska believe that Lenny and Mama were killed by Dad, who ran away. So now let's jump 7 years ahead into the future. Lenny graduates from college in Seattle, Washington. Her son is named Matthew Jr. Matthew is still in a home with still no improvement. Mama writes out a confession, or no, okay, skip the Matthew in a home part because that was the last part. Mama writes out a confession, and her dad, who was a lawyer, signs it as a witness of the murder of Dad, and the cover-up. She states that Lenny has nothing to do with it and hopes that Lenny will be able to go back home to Alaska and live her life like normal. Mama gets lung cancer and dies. Lenny and Matthew Jr. go back to Alaska, which was Mama's dying wish. Hence, they bring the confession back. Lenny brings the confession to the police department and then is arrested because she tells them the whole truth about her being part of the cover-up. Large Marge comes in and defends Lenny during the arraignment. Tom Walker calls the governor and has the governor request all charges be dropped. Large Marge reminds Lenny that in Alaska, sometimes it's not what you know, but it's also who you know too. So Lenny is set free, and then she goes to the Walker ranch and sees Matthew. Matthew can now walk and talk minimally. It still hurts him to walk, and he can only walk for a little bit, but he can still do it. Lenny's letters helped him. We learned that Lenny's letters helped him to read again. And Lenny and Matthew become a family again with Matthew Jr. They get married and have more kids happily ever after. And just wow, this whole book was like, at the part where Mama died, I had the ugly cries where I had the tears streaming, the snot going, and I had to take a break. I had to walk away and take a break for several hours before I could get back into this, because there was just so much emotion packed into it. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. Like I said, the review is coming later, but wow, I highly recommend this book if you need a good cry. If you want to feel every single emotion in one book, this book is definitely it for that. And because I finished The Great Alone today, I'll be starting on The Well of Ascension, Book 2 in the Mistborn series. I can't wait to get in this. It's gonna be so exciting. And because on Saturday I finished A Passage to India, which there will also be a review coming later today. Last night I started in on A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, which was recommended by the novel curator for A Stubbed Toe. And right now I'm only in the introduction by Seamus Dean. But so far this is a great introduction to James Joyce, because it paints the time when James Joyce is writing, it paints the place, Ireland, it paints James Joyce as a writer and a person in the text so clearly. Reading this introduction, I believe that I can easily read this novel, which was not the case for Ulysses, as you know. Or even Dubliner at times was tricky, and that's a short book. But I'm excited to get back into Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Like I said last week, this is a reread for me, but I can't wait to have another crack at James Joyce. And this is, like I said last week, this is a recommendation for having a stubbed toe. And the authors of the novel Cures state that when you stub your toe, you just want to yell out expletives. And instead of doing that, you should just yell out the first paragraph of this novel and then continue reading the novel, because it's a great novel and supposedly one of the more accessible novels by James Joyce. So I can't wait to get into that, but first I'm going to finish reading the introduction, because it's a really great introduction, one of the best that I've read, especially for someone like James Joyce. So that's my update for now. Look for my reviews of all these books to come, and I will check in with you all again tomorrow on Tuesday. Have a great day. Bye. Hey y'all, just checking in on Tuesday, November 24th. Today's reading quote comes from the book called An Unquiet Mind, and I read this in 2017, so a different year finally we've reached. And the reading quote says, "The library at Oxford University, built a century later, one of the finest medieval libraries in England, was also the first to house books upright on shelves instead of keeping them flat in chests. And y'all know how much I love libraries and books, so this one, of course, you know, I had to put down. Current reads, still going strong on Brideshead Revisited. It's a slow read for me because I'm reading like one page at a time because it's very slow prose, but I'm still reading it. I forgot to mention it yesterday, but I'm still reading it. Don't forget that. Portrait of the Artist of a Young Man. I'm still in the introduction, but I'm really enjoying the introduction. It reminds me of my MFA classes, so I'm really liking that. I will get to the main text today, I promise. So more to update on that tomorrow. Guards. I still love this book so much. Thank you guys for recommending it. It's fantastic. It makes me laugh so much. I love it. And one thing that I've noticed in my reading of Guards, sorry, I had to like a brain fart there for a second. So because the librarian is magically turned into an orangutan, he can't speak in like human speak. So how he communicates with all the humans at the Discworld, in the Discworld, is basically by like charades. He says like one word, short word, and they have to guess what he's trying to say by playing charades, and it's amazing. I love it. It's hilarious. So that's Guards and the Orangutan Librarian. And I started the Well of Ascension last night by Brandon Sanderson, which is book 2 of the Mistborn series, but I think like book 1 I'm gonna do maybe a separate reading vlog for that. So look for that reading vlog after I'm done reading that. But that's my very quick check-in for today. Yesterday was a long check-in because I read a lot of The Great Alone and I finished it over the weekend. So today's check-in is really quick, and that's it for now. And I'll see you all again tomorrow on Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye. Hey y'all, it's Kate from LoveStory checking in on Friday, November 27th. This is going to be a long one because I realized that I forgot to check in the last 2 days. So buckle up because we've got a lot to catch up on. First, today's reading quote, it comes from this random romance book I read back in 2013 called Kidnapped the Wrong Sister. And the quote says, "He was magnificent." And I love it because it's short, straight to the point, and tells you what you need to know. So now on to our reads. A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. Just like Ulysses, I was confused straight from the start. The first paragraph is what the novel Cure says should cure you of a stubbed toe, basically cure you of your wanting to yell out expletives. You're supposed to yell out this paragraph first, and the paragraph says, "Once upon a time, a very good time, it was a Malco coming down along the road, and this Malco that was coming down along the road met a nice little boy named Baby Tucko." I had no idea what the hell that was. It goes on like that for like a couple paragraphs, and I'm like, what is going on? And just like normal James Joyce, he switches back and forth between times and places without telling you. He just goes there. So after we get through the craziness of the first paragraph, the first page or so, we're at boarding school with Stephen, who's our main narrator. But then we all of a sudden go back home, and we, like I said, we don't get any warning, or James Joyce doesn't tell us, like, now we're going to a different place. We just go there. So now all of a sudden we're at home with Stephen's family on Christmas, and but like once I kept reading, and I learned that once you get used to this writing style, it's not so bad because you know what to expect and how to handle it. At least I did. Some people might be totally put off and confused by it, which is why James Joyce is one of the hardest writers to read, still to this day. But anyways, so we're back home with Stephen on and it's Christmas dinner, and an argument has broken out with his family about religion and politics, which was so on point because I read this bit yesterday on Thanksgiving, when a lot of people tend to say like they're with their families and there's, you know, always some kind of an argument that breaks out at dinner, usually about religion or politics or both, like Stephen's family. And then we go back to the boarding school with Stephen, and he's broken his glasses. He wrote home for a new pair, and the teacher said he didn't have to work until they came, but then Stephen was still punished by the prefect for, quote, slacking off. So then he goes and tells on the prefect, and his friends all celebrate because they think the prefect's going to get in trouble. And that's where I left it last night because I was exhausted. Guards. So we've got these little baby dragons now, and all I can picture is Mushu from Mulan, and I absolutely love it. And I also love that Vimes has grown attached to the little dragons and now is bringing one home with him, who they've renamed. He had like this crazy long name, but then they renamed him Errol because I think it was Nabi thought that he looked like an Errol, like his brother-in-law or cousin or something like that. So I can't wait to see where all this goes with the watch now having this little baby dragon while they chase the big giant dragon around. And poor Carrot, he's still clueless. He has no idea about this new world that he's in. They've hired the librarian orangutan in the watch as a citizen's watch. And then this random boy shows up with a magical sword saying that he's the heir to the throne, which even though they don't have kings and queens anymore in this land, he's still the heir to the throne and will slay the giant dragon, which was the Brethren / Supreme Grand Master's plan all along. And then lastly, we have Brideshead Revisited, and so Sebastian wrote to Charles, who's our main narrator, and said he was gravely injured and dying. And so then Charles hurried over to Brideshead from his home and found out that it was like a sprained or broken ankle, something like that. So he was really annoyed about that when he first arrived, but then of course, like normal, he warmed up to Sebastian and he got over that, and now they're hanging out and drinking tons of old wine, and they like had to pull out a book on how to enjoy wine and drink it, and then they get into this talk about religion, and Charles is like, so you go to church regularly. I grew up going to church. I did this in school and this, and I was taught this, but do you truly believe in the things that you are taught? And I really appreciate that kind of conversation that Charles and Sebastian have amongst the craziness of their drinking world and all of this, that like deep conversation that they have that not a lot of people are willing to have these days. I really appreciated that. And of course I am still reading the Well of Ascension, but I'm doing a separate reading vlog for that. So that's my check-in for now, and because I have today, Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, off, I might do some more reading and might check in again soon. But that's it for now, and we'll see y'all again tomorrow. Keep reading. Bye. Hey y'all, Kay from LoveStory here, checking in on Saturday, November 28th. Happy Saturday. And okay, so today's reading quote comes from In Cold Blood, and I read this back in 2013, a great classic thriller. And the quote says, "His assurances faltered, shyness blurred his voice." And so now we've got our current reads. These are some of them, as you know. First, Brideshead Revisited, which is the ebook I'm reading. So Charles, our narrator, has met Sebastian's family, and they all have different religious views, of course. Then he goes to Venice to meet Sebastian's father, Lord Marchmain. And I find it hilarious that Charles is disappointed by Marchmain's mistress. He says, "She was a middle-aged, well-preserved, well-dressed, well-mannered woman such as I had seen in countless public places and occasionally met. She was just normal. She wasn't anything special." And then I loved the conversation on hating that he has with the mistress. She says on page 90 of my copy, "When people hate with all that energy, it is something in themselves they are hating, and that is so true. Big message everyone needs to hear. Moving on to a portrait of the artist as a young man. So Stephen is not going back to school. He was living with Uncle Charles, who showed him how to properly steal things. Now he's back home and his dad is in trouble. I find the footnotes to be really distracting. Like, a lot of times footnotes are really helpful, but in this case, James Joyce does not use them very well. A lot of them are not really needed. They're just pointing out that, oh, this is a city name. This is where you can find the city, and it doesn't really add anything to the text, besides just history of Ireland, I guess, but it just is very distracting for me. And a lot of what is pointed out in the footnotes can be deduced from reading in the context. Lastly, guards. I am determined to finish this today, so that way that's at least one book done before December starts. So where I'm at now, the dragon has been slain, but it's really just disappeared. And Vimes and Errol, remember the little dragon they renamed, found the dragon. Errol tries to fight it off. Then we get to the magical library, which I absolutely love, where in between books, literally in the spaces between books, librarians can enter different worlds, either accidentally or on purpose if they know about it. The orangutan librarian accidentally discovered this when he took out a book. So then he's got to find his way back to his world. And Brother Watchtower has been vaporized by the dragon. And Vimes thought he saw a dragon, was fired from his position because it was just a raven, but then the real dragon came and wrecked the coronation of the new king, and then was crowned king of Ankh-Morpork. So that's where I've left it now. I can't wait to keep reading. I'm loving Guards, and I can't wait to start book 2 after this for my December readathon. But that's my check-in for now. Happy Saturday, happy weekend, end of November, almost December. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, let all your friends know. We are 10 subscribers away from 100. I'm so excited. Anyways, that's it for now, and keep reading, my friends. Bye. Hey y'all, just checking in one last time. I should note that starting next week for the month of December, things are going to be a little bit different because I'm in so many different challenges and I've got so much going on. I'm going to be doing dedicated vlogs instead of my normal weekly vlogs, but I'll still be posting reviews every time I finish a book. So check in for those dedicated reviews if you're interested, and check in for the dedicated vlogs if you want to see how I'm getting along in reading. But I'm going to continue reading these books and start new ones on December 1st, Tuesday. So I'll check in with you all again soon. Bye.